Hey guys, welcome to this quick update. So it's day one of Consensus Distributed. Now, I managed to register for this and I've been following throughout the day. In between work, I'm obviously working from home and most of it is happening at night in my time zone. So it's still going on, but it's a bit late. It's 10 p.m. here. And this is such an exciting time for crypto. It's the most exciting time for crypto since probably 2017. And I just thought, you know what? I took some notes of some of the great sessions that I attended today. And what's nice is that even though you're remote, if you registered, you can actually take part in polls, ask questions. I'll talk about all of that in a minute. So I thought, let me just talk a bit about some of the talks I attended today. Day one, it's going on for 5 days. The halving happened today as well. In fact, they at one of the talks they said, okay, it's just happened. I haven't checked the price since then. 10,000 attendees plus virtually 300 speakers. There's different tracks. Anyway, what were the highlights? So we started off the day. This is quite interesting, right? Yves Mersch. I hope I pronounced that correctly. So this is a central bank guy. This is the, I think, the head of the ECB, the European Central Bank. And what he said was very interesting. He tried to give us a balanced view, not attacking crypto, but saying the following, and I'm just looking at my notes here, saying the public is not willing to abandon trusted cash, but they are getting ready for the future. A cashless future is where people don't hold central bank money. You would be relying on private institutions. So that would be something like Ripple. Okay, so this is why central banks are keeping an eye on what's going on with crypto. He does say, however, or he did in the talk, that the demand for cash is still massive. There's a stat here: mid-March, banknotes in circulation reached 19 billion euros. And currently he feels there isn't a solid use case for a central bank digital currency, but that isn't stopping their research. Now, I've seen this at other central banks, including in my country as well. They're a little bit nervy. They're saying the right things. But so you've heard some of this before. Now, the other thing that would be interesting is that what would be different? He used the money laundering excuse, and I'm sure if you're in crypto, you're tired of this already. But he said, look, there's concerns about privacy and money laundering. Obviously, a CBDC, central bank digital currency, would lessen privacy because you have a lot of privacy in cash with cash transactions. So remember that. One of the concerns as well, he mentioned that if households convert deposits into a CDBC, there could be a bank run, But he also gave us an idea, something about a tiered remuneration system. The first tier is a means of payment. The second tier is a store of value. So maybe two central bank currencies. Now here's an article. There's a lot that's been written on the subject. This is one that I found written not too long ago, March 2020. 4 reasons central banks should launch retail digital currencies. But it's not really clear. It's also not clear if this will help Bitcoin, Ethereum or not. It might just be a competitor. It might put pressure on the decentralized currencies that we like in this space. So Yves ended with something along the lines of, we don't serve tech, the tech is here to serve us. We will only introduce CBDC if it meets certain needs, but when that business case comes along, we will be ready. So a very confident man, and he kicked off the conference. But it's good. I suppose it's good that this level of person is in the space. But as I said, there may well be competitor in the future. So we then had, or the next one that I watched was Gavin Wood. Now Gavin Wood was one of the co-founders of Ethereum, and he's moved on to something called Polkadot. And so what is Polkadot if you haven't been following, right? There's Polkadot and there's another one. man, the name just escapes me now. But basically, it's a scalable, heterogeneous, multi-chain with a focus on interoperability. They want to parallelize much of the transaction processing. So it's ambitious, I would say. He did take a dig. This is interesting. He took a little bit of a dig at his old, project Ethereum. He put up a chart saying, Bitcoin can do 5 transactions per second. Ethereum has programmability, but roughly about 25. And Polkadot apparently could go from 100,000 to 1,000,000 transactions per second. So if you haven't heard about it, and I haven't paid too much attention to it, here's Polkadot, similar to Cosmos. So that's the other one, the Cosmos framework. So it says here, Polkadot is an ambitious project that leverages a form of proof of stake consensus for the broader ecosystem of blockchains that are connected to it. Now, my only concern is that this one seems to want to be a hub. And I don't like hubs where they're single point of failures and where, I'm just trying to see if they've got a diagram on this article. Not just a single point of failure, but then all other chains become reliant on this, and especially if this isn't truly decentralized, that could be a problem. We'll see how the scalability problem gets solved, but that was mentioned a few times. I then watched a talk, and it's amazing I got so many in, but it's been a long day. I basically worked today, and then a lot of these started at about 3 p.m. So a bit tired, but man, it's just so exciting, where we are now with the halving and post-corona. So before I talk about Joseph Lubin, I put out a video literally, I think 2 days ago, saying crypto, it's now or never. And you should watch that. But the gist of what I was saying there is basically, we have the perfect storm of, of economic indicators, political indicators. This is it here. If Bitcoin, Ethereum, crypto cannot be successful now, then it's never going to happen. Right? We've got the government's printing money like crazy because of this pandemic, and obviously we want to get through this pandemic and not have too many debts. We've already got a large amounts of debts, more than 200,000 globally. But still, we want to come out of it, and it's crypto's time to shine. And you saw what happened in Venezuela, where people use Bitcoin, they can't trust their own currency. Hyperinflation is a problem. It's now or never. It has to happen now, right? And that's why, I really enjoyed just a few talks. I wasn't sure what to expect. So anyway, we came to Joseph Lubin, and he was part of, if I'm not mistaken, this panel, right? A panel discussion where they interviewed a few people, and some of the notes I jotted down. I'm just having a look here. Most of them feel that permissionless will definitely win and decentralized, and it will be future money at one stage. There was some argument about the time frames, right? How long will it take? Somebody made the comment, I made a note, fiat, how will fiat currencies compete? And then somebody said, well, there could well be a link between the dollar and something on a blockchain. And then the comment was made, putting fiat currencies on the blockchain may actually extend their life. It might extend the life of the dollar as a reserve currency. Of course, Bitcoin is tipped to become a global reserve currency. I've said that, and a lot more people are saying that now. So with respect to Joe Lubin, he mentioned today, he was asked about 2.0 Ethereum. He said, firstly, just wants to make this very clear, 1.0 is ready for a lot of use cases, right? Let's not forget about that. And then he made a statement, and I'm going to say it. He said, expect 2.0 in Q3. Q3 2020. So that's somewhere between July, September. So that's exciting. And the main benefit, he says, is scalability of the base layer. And he quoted a number even, which, I'm a software guy, and I'd be hesitant to quote raw numbers before something's been released. He said, look, we're looking at 1,000-fold increase in scalability. So that's very bullish by Joe Lubin. It's good to see. I didn't get to see Vitalik. speak. I caught the recording later. Of course, when you're watching it live, you can partake, you can ask a question. And I did put a question to Joe Lubin asking if, what do you think Ethereum's chances are about becoming a global reserve currency? But I don't think he saw that. Then we had something called the Digital Dollar Project with Chris Giancarlo. Now, I saw him here. This is the guy, Chris Giancarlo. And he's an American. He's tipped to take up a big position in the UK, I think. And he was talking about, if we have a digital dollar, how would it work? Would it be linked to Bitcoin? Because Bitcoin is decentralized and have a blockchain. And he didn't want to take a stance on that. There was discussion of, well, okay, if it's not linked to Bitcoin, will the digital dollar have its own blockchain? What will be the underlying blockchain technology? Maybe something custom developed by the US Fed. How do you bake KYC into a digital dollar? And more importantly, what are the cross-border implications of a digital dollar? Okay. So my question is, does the US dollar need the digital dollar to retain the reserve currency status? I put that in there, and I think someone did pick it up. I'll have to look at the recording again. But I think a few people asked the question. Because if something like Bitcoin or Ethereum becomes a global reserve currency, then that's it. People will use that for balance of payments. But I've explored this in my other videos. Then I had some fun. So firstly, we had the author of the Bitcoin Standard, and I hope I pronounced this correctly, Safadin Amus. And he had a nice chat, and I'll play this clip. Hopefully the audio is clear. Just about a minute, talking about Austrian economics. So let's see.
Are the signals we're going to get from Bitcoin, let's say, having a stronger psychology, right? What makes Bitcoin stand out, and how can it transcend and push through these limitations that you're describing?
I think ultimately it's just the brutal realities of supply and demand. They're always finding new ways central banks are always finding new ways of increasing the supply of their money, and they're tasked by ensuring that there's no inflation, so they're constantly trying their best there's no deflation, so they're constantly trying their best to increase the money supply, and we see that happening all the time. However, with Bitcoin, we see the opposite. We see the supply declining. So I think just the brutal realities of the supply is not declining, but the new production is declining. So, we're already made about 80-90% of all the Bitcoins that have ever been produced are already produced, and the new production is just going to get smaller and smaller. And so Bitcoin's credibility as a store of value and as a medium of exchange, as a form of money, is continuing to increase, because it operates without all of these political oversight, because it operates without all of these problems that central bankers have, which, I think it's astonishing to think about it, that Bitcoin really does to central banking what the automated telephone does to phone operators.
Yeah, makes them obsolete. So anyway, that was quite interesting, right? And so what he's talking about, the printing problem, somebody put a comment here on my tweet, right? He said, well, you've got a .eth name and you're talking about Austrian economics. So I mean, I'm firmly a believer in Austrian economics. As much as I love Ethereum because smart contracts are the future for things like supply chains, value chains, autonomous smart contracts, helping people where we're not tied to company abuse, to be abused by corporations. That's big. But I do wish we had clarity on the Ethereum supply cap. And here's a paradox I want to share with you at this point. I love Bitcoin and Ethereum. I love the fact that Bitcoin is deflationary. There will only be 21 million. We've lost a few million. There will never be any more. And I wish we had that kind of clarity on Ethereum. However, Vitalik came out a while back and said, right now, the reason you want issuance is to protect the network. You want to make sure miners have rewards when you've got proof of work. Maybe Ethereum will have a hard cap when it goes to proof of stake. Who knows? But he's more worried about the rewards. That's the only thing I worry about, because people tell me the rewards are too low, people will stop mining, the hash rate of Bitcoin will come down. I personally think it won't happen. I think as long as there's some Bitcoin to be mined, everyone will go after it, and if the value rises up high enough, we'll get over that. But that's a worry. That and people who attack Bitcoin say that. So anyway, that was interesting video. So you can watch these videos. They've been made freely available. Even if you didn't register, there are benefits to registering. You know, there's some free stuff you can get and all kinds of other things. But basically, Safadin said central banks have got almost everything wrong in the last 50 years. That was a comment I made a note of, which was quite bullish comment. Then we had another mixed session, and the one thing that was funny, so we had a lot of people not properly related to blockchain, but coming on board and talking. And obviously, since we're all working remotely, we had Zoom. Now, I'm not a Zoom fan. I'm obviously, for obvious reasons, you would know more of a Teams guy. But I had to share this, right? So you'll find this funny. The CIO of Zoom, this guy's the CIO, and he starts talking and he forgets to unmute himself. So let me play this quickly. So he's talking now.
You'll have to unmute there if you can. I think you're probably used to it. Yes. Sorry. It's just I tend to mute the call in case the puppy barks when I'm on it, so it's all right. You know the ins and outs of your platform better than most.
Yeah, you should. You should know the ins and outs of your platform. Anyway, that was funny. He later said his dog sometimes barks. There we go. Somebody put a comment. In this age of lockdown, so it's a type of problem that we have nowadays. There was another talk then by a lady called, I'm not sure if I'm going to find her, Carlota Perez, and she was here we go. This is her. Now she's an economist, and it's great now not hearing from a tech guy or from a pure blockchain guy, but the economists coming in to the space at events like this. And she had a very interesting talk on how we've had these revolutions, these technological revolutions, and what you need for these revolutions for the inputs to reach a stage where it's affordable. You had coal, for example, driving the steam revolution, but you needed cheap coal. If it was too expensive, it wouldn't have happened. We all use cars, but we needed cheap fuel, cheap steel for shipbuilding, and then people sailed around the world. So, we can't, bringing back to software, computer industry took off where we had chips come down to an affordable price and cheap software. Imagine if every piece of software cost thousands of dollars, like right at the beginning. And she then spoke of the COVID pandemic and why we need the economic revolution even more now. And she feels blockchain is good for that. She ended off by saying that they're printing money, it's inflation. Bitcoin is going to be so big, nobody controls it. It's decentralized. You've heard all of this before, but here's an economist, proper economist, saying these things. That was great. Then a few other things that we had. Let me see here. So we had the US CEO of Binance, so Katherine Kohli, and she was obviously, this is actually important, she was actually talking about the lockdown, they're growing. Binance is growing all over the world. They're now in my country. Binance could be, the one, this is her, exchange that really in the crypto revolution spreads worldwide. Almost every country has a local Binance office. And I've actually met the Binance rep for my country. And I did a talk at Blockchain Africa. I'll just kill the volume here. But I did a talk at Blockchain Africa. That's where I met, what's his name? Tony Vase. I've got a picture of me with Tony Vase. So there's Binance. And the lady introducing me here was actually now the local head for Binance South Africa. That's very interesting. So they're doing well. And so Katherine Kohli spoke about things like stable coins. And this is very interesting. She mentioned that during this pandemic, there's a big demand for stable coins. And obviously Binance seem to have their own stable coin. And I won't talk about that because it's linked to their exchange. But as I said, they've got these big global ambitions. Then again, what's the difference between that and Tether, where there's a company that's just minting these things? But if we have a proper decentralized stable coin, I don't know if it exists. Tell me if it does. The one thing is, if you needed to park funds, and if you live in an emerging market, this is very a real world problem, because you could be in a situation where your currency is going to lose ground against the dollar and other global currencies. Emerging markets always get hit. You don't know how lucky you guys are in the US. You think you have a problem with inflation. And you don't want to park it in Bitcoin, because let's say you know you're going to need the money in a month's time. Bitcoin could tank, as it sometimes does. And you can't wait it out. You can't say to yourself, well, it's going to come back up. You're going to need that cash in a month's time. So you pop it into a stable coin linked to the US dollar. This actually is almost a way to buy US dollars if you're living in other countries. Whereas in many countries before we had this, you actually couldn't do that unless you were traveling to the US, right? So there's a whole new world of opportunity here. So stable coins, she says, during this pandemic, we need to get food, even things like donating stable coins to charity organizations so they can distribute food throughout the world, remote locations. So there's a lot of good coming out from that. I just wish we had a stable coin platform that was properly decentralized, and I don't know how it would be linked to something like the US dollar. But hey, maybe I've just uncovered the use case for the digital dollar. And so maybe Bitcoin won't kill the dollar. That could be something that we need, right? Although, would you be allowed to just buy it globally? That's another thing. So, and then, there's more and more, and it's still going on right now. It's just over 10 p.m. my time. We had something called Capital Controls, Balaji Srinivasan. I follow him on Twitter. Nothing really great there. I mean, he was speaking. I wasn't paying too much attention. Jed McCaleb, I chose not to follow that session. Philip Gradwell, Chain Analysis, the effect of halvening on supply. I spoke about this a few minutes ago. He spoke about things like liquidity, network security, and mining costs. I think it'll be fine, but this is a real concern that the anti-Bitcoiners put up against Bitcoin. Jutta Steiner from a company called Parity, so I've got this here, and she went into more detail about why Cosmos versus Polkadot. So do some research between these two if you haven't heard of these. And Polkadot's more than just interoperability. And then someone spoke about integrating blockchains into things like web services, websites. The talk I gave here, I'm going to redo it. I spoke about bringing blockchain into the enterprise world, and AI and using the data and all of that, which is very, very exciting. Okay, yeah, so that's me. So, man, I really enjoyed this. That's why I'm making the video. It's such an exciting time to be in crypto. I'm gonna try and get some videos from day 2. I see we have speakers like Cameron Winklevoss, some really big speakers, right? So crypto is the most exciting thing. Blockchain, there's Vitalik. I don't know if he's got more. I'll see if I can do another video. But yeah, if you didn't get to watch the videos, you can still watch some of them. Just go to CoinDesk and see. There's probably a link here if you're not registered. Or you might be able to still register. It was free. That was the point. Free and virtual. There we go. So I really enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys really, really soon. Thanks for listening.